That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea.
Thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal. I'll be.
One instant, the Kaseya Center in Miami was electric with pure excitement and noise. The next instant, complete dead silence took over everything. Anthony Joshua's right hand connected perfectly in the 6th round, and it did way more than just drop Jake Paul to the mat. It completely sucked the life out of that entire building. The energy just disappeared immediately, replaced by this heavy quiet that nobody saw coming.
6, 7.
That right hand landed with precision, and the cameras captured the exact second when reality hit everyone watching. This wasn't some random slip or unlucky moment. This wasn't bad timing or something Jake could joke about later on social media or dismiss with some witty post. Earlier that night, Jake had been moving around that ring like he owned it, confidence pouring off him, shoulders relaxed, completely absorbing all the spotlight like usual. But minutes later, totally different picture. Medical team rushing in around him, his jaw completely destroyed, his fight over when he didn't want it to be, and his whole carefully built story shattered in front of millions. That sudden shift, that complete flip from confidence to devastation, is exactly why this moment hit so hard with everyone. This wasn't just another mark in the loss column that you recover from. This was the complete destruction of an illusion that took years to build. Man, he ate a missile. Jake Paul didn't accidentally stumble into this situation through chance or luck. His entire boxing journey was crafted piece by piece, with calculated precision. Opponents were hand-picked using very specific requirements. Weight weights were carefully manipulated to keep advantages in his favor. He intentionally stayed away from the real killers early on, and instead chose names that brought maximum publicity and pay-per-view numbers without bringing maximum risk into that ring. Aging fighters beyond their best years, smaller fighters who couldn't compete with his size, or athletes from totally different sports who lacked the specialized skills. The strategy worked perfectly for years. 12 victories, 7 knockouts, and those stats looked solid on paper. Millions of followers became convinced he was truly legitimate in boxing. Media companies went along because it drove traffic. Content creators boosted every win because it made good material. Critics were quickly written off as jealous losers or stubborn old-school types who couldn't handle the new way.
Boxing is not a game. Fighting is not something you pick up and mess around with, right? If you're a fighter, if you're a boxer, if you're a mixed martial artist, right, you have to take this seriously and you have to respect the game.
The thing about that whole system, though, and this is critical to grasp, it only works when every single factor remains completely under your control. Jake always competed on his schedule. His rules, his time frame, size played a massive role in his opponent's selection. Played a role in ways people didn't always catch, and experience differences mattered more than anyone wanted to acknowledge openly. For years, those factors stayed nicely buried under flashy highlight packages and overwhelming swagger. The real threat was never going to be any single fighter on any given evening. The real threat, the thing that could destroy everything, was buying into your own hype too much. Thinking that success built carefully under perfect conditions could somehow translate against a full-grown elite championship heavyweight with nothing left to prove. Anthony Joshua ended that fantasy forever. This wasn't some fun crossover experiment or entertainment spectacle. Joshua showed up as exactly what he's always been his entire career. A professional heavyweight with 26 knockouts under his belt and serious lasting damage in his fists. He didn't need promotion or talking trash to market himself. From round one, the difference between them was painfully clear to everyone watching. Jake Paul wasn't really boxing in there. He was just trying to survive, holding on to Joshua desperately, grabbing whenever possible, wrestling to buy time, doing anything he could to control a fight that was beyond his skill level. The speed difference, the timing advantage, and the sheer power were already way too much right from the beginning. Honestly, the finish was guaranteed the second they touched gloves.
Counter right. There's the right hand. Jake Paul goes down again. Man, he's punished.
Joshua remained patient and controlled throughout that entire fight. He wasn't rushing for some quick finish. He wasn't chasing a viral knockout clip for the internet. He simply waited calmly for his moment to arrive. During the 5th round, the warning signs became obvious. Jake hit the deck hard. Then again, dropping a second time, each knockdown taking away more of his confidence. You could watch it leave his eyes. The 6th round wasn't dramatic or flashy when it came. It was just unavoidable, like watching dominoes topple, one perfect right hand with flawless timing and placement. The Kaseya Center serving as witness to a complete lesson.
Best shot at the moment, not that much is going to happen.
And it almost there's a left hook.
When Jake remained on that canvas, couldn't beat the count, the numbers painted a picture that was absolutely devastating to examine. First knockout defeat of his entire career, something he'd avoided until this moment. Second loss overall on his record. The tally now reads 12 wins and 2 losses, and statistics don't fabricate stories. Meanwhile, Anthony Joshua left that ring with his 29th victory and 26th knockout, like this was just routine business for him. Nothing extraordinary. Jake, however, exited that building with a shattered jaw requiring immediate medical attention, surgery that couldn't wait, hospital stay lasting multiple days, and a liquid diet extending weeks ahead. You can debate decisions in interviews, you can argue scorecards with officials, you can question points in rounds, but you definitely cannot debate broken bones. That's a permanent record that ignores your internet fame completely.
That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what, a lot of people watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they've finally been waiting for.
The contest didn't actually finish when the referee stopped it. And that's what people keep overlooking in all the commentary. The final bell didn't protect Jake Paul from anything. The count didn't stop the real damage that occurred. The true aftermath started later. In the hours and days after, when the rush faded completely and reality arrived with medical bills, X-rays, and physicians who definitely don't care about social media metrics or YouTube numbers, shattered jaw, needing surgical reconstruction, hospital room for observation, and operations to reassemble the pieces. That's not something you casually brush off in a post-fight video for your audience. That's your body sending a serious message to your pride, and there's no disputing that verdict. Almost immediately, everything shifted dramatically. Trash talk vanished entirely from his accounts. Posts slowed to practically nothing. The same person who used to document every single detail of his career constantly went totally silent. Because when your jaw is wired closed and you're drinking meals through a tube for weeks, confidence feels different. It feels way different. This wasn't a black eye that disappears in 7 days or a sore rib you can wrap up. This was a harsh lesson that when you face a legitimate heavyweight with legitimate power, the aftermath doesn't end when cameras stop rolling and broadcasts finish. All that bravado looks really smooth in press conferences under bright lights. It looks much less smooth in a medical gown waiting for surgery.
She'll fight for a second. It happened in the 6th round, and it happened in a 22-foot ring. A typical ring is 20 foot. This one was 22 foot because he wanted a bigger room to operate, a bigger space, a bigger ring, somewhere to...
That sharp difference is exactly what made this impact so powerfully with audiences. Hours before, Jake was moving confidently, grinning for photographers, absorbing attention like he always does. Now he's surrounded by hospital staff, discussing recovery schedules and surgical operations. That's why this specific defeat felt different than anything previous. Supporters can joke about a decision loss and forget it. They can turn a knockdown into memes for fun. But fractured bones and surgery aren't fun anymore. Not for anybody. That's consequences showing up with a receipt. Boxing's way of giving you proof you can't argue with. And while Jake was handling doctors and confronting reality, Dana White was handling something completely different. Being correct and getting proven correct in the most devastating way imaginable. Dana didn't randomly enter this discussion after the knockout occurred. He'd been cautioning about this matchup long before gloves were laced in that arena. He labeled it a terrible idea publicly and consistently. Directly stated Jake was entering territory he didn't belong in, something beyond his capability. Back then, people dismissed it easily, said Dana was bitter about influencer boxing, said he despised the crossover movement, said he was worried about Jake's fame threatening traditional boxing.
I need to give this guy a systematic breakdown. I know what type of fighter he is, and I said I'm going to take his soul, and I said, I'm going to see it leaving his body round after round. And when the time comes, some people are just there to get knocked out. And I said it, and that's exactly what happened.
That's where things begin to totally crumble mentally for Jake Paul. Because physical recovery is one process your body handles with time. But mentally, that's so much harder to bounce back from. Following the fight, Jake claimed he rocked Anthony Joshua at moments, insisted he captured certain rounds on the scorecards. Yeah, that's human instinct. That's the rejection stage everyone experiences. But his body language revealed a totally different reality if you were watching closely. The careful exit from the venue, the blank stare at nothing, the way he spoke without his typical sharp confidence and energy. You could detect it in his tone. Something basic changed inside. This was his first knockout defeat in his whole boxing experience. Losing a decision damages your record and hurts your ego. Sure, but getting knocked out cold transforms how you view yourself as a fighter. It creates doubts you can't edit away or remove from footage. Jake has always managed to control the story brilliantly. Find another opponent, build another angle, create another storyline. But when you're finished like that, flat on the ground, unable to keep going, there's no alternative path available. The gap between losing and being stopped is massive psychologically. A decision loss allows you to debate and discuss. A knockout ends the whole discussion permanently. Your confidence doesn't just get damaged, it breaks apart. Suddenly, the easy routes don't seem so smart anymore. Suddenly, the dangers feel real in your core. And suddenly, the sport stops feeling like entertainment to create and starts feeling like actual war with real results. That change didn't just impact Jake individually, it spread through his whole team. Logan Paul experienced it too, heavily. Before the contest, Logan was vocal and confident, enjoying the momentum like always, backing his brother openly. After the knockout, that enthusiasm disappeared entirely. Because the Paul empire has always been constructed completely around control. Controlled madness, controlled stories, controlled danger, and for the first time, they lost control entirely, and publicly. You can't transform hospital clips into something positive. You can't turn a broken jaw into a win. You can't shield your brother from physics and truth. That's when the show becomes personal. And that's the silent aftermath nobody planned to handle. The point where everyone, from supporters to promoters to other fighters, had to consider a real question. How much is excessive in this influencer boxing movement? Because this wasn't entertainment accidentally going wrong. This was a wake-up call delivered at heavyweight velocity. And once that door opens to genuine consequences, you can't shut it again. Jake Paul didn't just lose a bout on his scorecard. He lost the fantasy that the system always works in his favor. And once that fantasy shatters completely, every move forward feels so much more difficult. This fight silently destroyed the whole concept of safe crossover boxing as a workable plan. The understood agreement was always obvious to people within the business. Influencers stay around the outside where it's secure, not in the dangerous zone with the predator. Jake Paul violated that boundary intentionally, and Anthony Joshua made definitely sure everyone remembers it. This wasn't hype facing hype in some created conflict. This was hype charging straight into standards it couldn't reach regardless of effort. Instantly, promoters became worried about upcoming matches. Fighters became careful about accepting these crossover contests, and supporters stopped finding the whole situation amusing. Legitimate boxers don't need influencer payments desperately enough to risk becoming the next news story. Jaw locked shut, reputation questioned, legacy harmed. That single knockout sent fear through the entire crossover combat sports community. For Jake, there are no easy ways out remaining. The history is unchangeable now, set in concrete. First knockout defeat, second loss total, no rematch power to request, no moral victory to declare. Supporters are divided between understanding and we told you constantly. Sponsors examine the dangers more carefully now. Opponents pause before agreeing. Reputation suddenly costs something real. And the ultimate reality is clear and undeniable. Boxing ignores followers or online influence. Dana White didn't defeat Jake Paul directly. Truth handled that task effectively. Anthony Joshua didn't just win a contest for his statistics. He defended a line that required defending. This wasn't drama or debate. This was physics doing what physics does, bringing everything back to ground level eventually.